Today's video is part 2 of my first question, who is us, regarding the Genesis text, which states, "Let us make man in our image, in our own likeness." If you missed part 1, visit my channel Unbecoming and watch the video. Before we dive into today's video, please subscribe to my channel, hit that thumbs up to like this video, and smash the notification button so you won't miss out on the next video. Now, let's get started where we left off. In the last video, I shared how the edits of the Bible were a layering of beautiful and profound theology over the top of ancient text. This ancient text was recorded on the Cuneiform tablets. Christianity and Judaism both find their roots in the story of a Sumerian family, Abraham and Sarah, who grew up and spent a deal of their lives in Ur of the Chaldees, a Sumerian culture. When they immigrated from Ur, it's no surprise that they would carry with them all the stories of the beginnings that they grew up with and integrate these stories into the foundations of what was to become their culture, their religion, and eventually their Bible. Sumerian, Babylonian, and Assyrian ancient texts included parallel biblical stories such as Adam and Eve, the fall of Cain and Abel, the Great Flood, the event at the Tower of Babel, and more. What's fascinating is the Sumerian account, and those that followed it were in all probability the source of those familiar biblical stories. The Sumerians were the first to develop a system of writing called the Cuneiform, etching their stories, laws, and knowledge into clay tablets that have survived through millennia. They were the first to establish schools, passing on their knowledge from generation to generation, ensuring their wisdom would not be lost to the sands of time. They were a people of deep spirituality and profound wisdom. The Sumerians thrived in the region of the Fertile Crescent, specifically in the area between the Tigris and Euphrates rivers in Mesopotamia. The Sumerians referred to themselves as the black-headed people. The term Sumerians is a term that was not a self-designation, but one given to them by other civilizations in later times, such as the Akkadian Empire. The term Sumerian means land of the civilized kings. The Sumerians viewed the world around them and saw not just what was, but what could be. They were the first to ask the questions that would define humanity. Who are we? Where do we come from? What is our purpose? It is said that the Anunnaki taught the Sumerians everything necessary to build a society that still resonates in our modern world. Who exactly were the Anunnaki? According to the Sumerian tablets, before the existence of humans, the earth was inhabited solely by a pantheon of gods, a powerful and advanced species that came from the heavens to earth called the Anunnaki. Some myths classify these gods and goddesses into two groups: the major gods known as the Anunnaki and the junior gods known as Igigi. The Anunnaki were the rulers, leaders, and commanders of the earth. At the apex of the Anunnaki were Enki, the commander or god of earth, and his brother Enlil, the commander or god of the Anunnaki on earth. They were appointed to these positions by their father Anu, a king and ruler of his world. The Igigi were the original laborers on earth, tilling the land, digging the trenches, and most importantly, mining for gold. It became clear in the myths that the Igigi had grown weary of the hard work in the mines, and a rebellion began. Their complaints eventually reached the ears of Enki and Enlil, who quickly relayed the Igigi concerns to their father Anu. Enki's solution was to create primitive workers to alleviate the burdens of the Igigi. Enlil instead wanted Enki's engineering team to design and create additional tools to alleviate the Igigi's workload. But Enki was resolute in his idea to create a local workforce. The matter was taken before the Sky Council because creating a new species was only to be done by the Father of all. After much discussion and deliberations, it was decided that retrieving the gold from Earth was paramount to the salvation of the Anunnaki's planet. So Enki was allowed to proceed with his experiments to create a new species to take over the workload of the junior gods. Enki solicited the assistance of his sister Nimah, who possessed great knowledge of medicine and was skilled in the art of healing. Enki shared with Nimah that he had already identified the beings that would be used to aid in the creation of the local workforce. The beings moved upright, had a pair of legs, used their front limbs as arms, and had hands. They consumed plants with their mouths and drank water from ditches and lakes. They compete for territory with other creatures, and their bodies are covered with hair. Ningishzida, Enki's son, had already examined the essence of the being's creation and discovered it resembled that of the Anunnaki, as they possessed two intertwining serpents. In other words, DNA strands. Ningishzida shared that by combining the Anunnaki's vital essence with the being's essence, the Anunnaki's imprint would be upon the beings, and a primitive worker would be created. The created worker will look like them, be able to comprehend their instructions and handle their tools for work. The Anunnaki experienced many failed attempts. Success was eventually found through artificial insemination using a female Anunnaki. You see, to create a local workforce, the Anunnaki used sequences of their own genetic code to hybridize a primate ancestor into a human, ready to put to work. The purpose of creation was to serve the gods and to take over the labor that the junior gods found too burdensome. To the Sumerians, their purpose was clear and unambiguous. They were created to serve the gods. This belief was reflected in their societal structures and practices. Many of the world's mythologies claim that governance over human society began with dominance over human beings established by superior beings or gods. The job of rulership is handed over at a later stage to human governors or kings. The Bible speaks of King Saul as the first human king over the people of God. The Sumerian Cuneiforms also named their first human king Gilgamesh. Gilgamesh was a transition king, a hybrid of human and Anunnaki. His name appears on one of the most famous of Mesopotamian artifacts, the Sumerian King's List. When we read the Mesopotamian clay tablets, the period before the cradle of civilization in Sumer was a time when only the gods walked the earth. Ladies and gentlemen, our ancestral narratives all speak of higher consciousness being downgraded in our prehistoric past, and raise the possibility that our cognitive abilities can be upgraded and our consciousness can be heightened. Our mythologies speak of our perceptual field being limited. That suggests we might be able to expand it. The Anunnaki narrative speaks of us laboring for superiors, and you can see that we are hardwired to do that. But what if we were able to break down that programming and start working for one another? What if we de-engineered our slave settings and allowed ourselves to live freer, less fearful lives, what would that look like? We can reawaken a higher state of consciousness and heighten our abilities for a better human experience. After all, it is in our ancestral DNA. We have come to the end of today's video and our answer to the Who is Us question. I hope you enjoyed the video. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel and hit the thumbs up to like this video. Turn your notifications on so you don't miss out as we explore my next question. See you next time.